Good morning, all. I'm going to refill my water. I shall be right back.
There's a Maj on the next one.
I guess. Hi, Janine.
Hello, how are you doing? Good to see
Okay.
you. Did you like the movie?
Yeah, wasn't the greatest, but it was good.
Yeah. Uh-oh, I lost my view thing here. I messed up on the. There it is.
Oh, yeah. Not that many people, probably because of Mother's Day.
I guess so. Oh yeah, happy Mother's Day, Suzanne.
Oh, thank you. Come here, this is my annoying son here. Come here. Right here, annoying. Say my name is annoying.
He's awfully furry to be a son.
Well, he won't go farther than a yard away from me, so he
Oh,
annoys me. Well, it's because of he constantly wants something.
he wants your love.
And he's
No.
got a summer haircut.
He wants food.
He wants to walk. He wants to go to the car. He what, dog?
Isn't food love?
Is it? Do you think so, Doyle?
It absolutely is.
Especially in a Jewish house, right?
Put this on because it's
So he's about to bark to ask for more, so don't give him any ideas. No, don't listen to them.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good to see everyone.
Good morning.
I'm gonna mute everyone and get us started. Happy Mother's Day, everybody. I found this movie on a list of movies that you should watch on Mother's Day, and I totally disagree. So I had never seen this before, but I was like, okay, Lady Bird. And I heard it was about a relationship between a daughter and mother. I'm like, okay, why not? Whoops. So speaking of mothers, oh wait, let's let her connect to audio. Well, my mother is connecting to audio. There we go. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. You're welcome. Okay. So I was just saying that this was suggested on a list of movies to watch for Mother's Day. And now that I know what it's about, I totally disagree. But hey, you know, one person's trash is another's treasure, or however we want to phrase it. But I still thought it was a good movie. Maybe not like one of those movies that you want to say, hey Mom, happy Mother's Day, let's watch Lady Bird. But you know, it's okay. We can still move forward. At least they end up loving each other. Also, my apologies for wearing a green shirt on on Zoom as I notice the shadowier parts are starting to fade into the background. My background is, just for those of you, in case you didn't know, Mom, do you know what this is? Okay, well, it's Cincinnati. So Cincinnati is my Sacramento. So this is the town where I grew up. And I already had it in my in my choice of video backgrounds. So there you go. All right, let's talk about Lady Bird. Written and directed by Greta Gerwig. I forgot to write 2017 on the slide. I was talking to my mom yesterday about it being from 2019. I was wrong, 2017. I remember it being a really big deal that Greta Gerwig was nominated for so much, but she won in some arenas and did not in others. The movie was nominated for 5 Oscars. Best Picture, Best Actress for Saoirse Ronan, Best Actress for Laurie Metcalf, Best Director and Original Screenplay, both for Greta Gerwig. And all, I thought, well-deserved. Now, the Best Picture of the year was Shape of Water, which meant the director went to Guillermo del Toro. Allison Janney got Best Supporting for I, Tonya, Frances McDormand for 3 Billboards, and Guillermo del Toro again for Best Director, and Get Out won for Jordan Peele, won Best Screenplay. So that just by seeing who the winners are, this movie was up against some heavy hitters in 2017. A lot of great movies came out that year. Shape of Water. It was just, for the actor who played the little Saoirse. Thank you. The actor who played the alien in Shape of Water also played pretty much the same character in Hellboy. So interesting that he got typecast as a water alien creature. Who would have thunk that could have been a typecast role? But a lot of great movies coming out that year. It did win 2 Golden Globes, Best Motion Picture for Golden Globes, and Best Performance by an Actor for Saoirse Ronan. And thank you again for that. Nominated for 2 others, Best Screenplay and Laurie Metcalf's Best Performance. And across the circuit, this is fantastic. This may be our biggest pair of numbers. Another 115 wins and 220 nominations. So just a monster of a movie as far as acclaim in the critical world. The critique from IMDb users was not as high as critical reviews. So 7.4 on IMDb, 94 on Metacritic, 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes tends to be critics' reviews, not regular watcher reviews. And I think as far as movies go, it definitely appealed to me more on the second watch, where I was watching more for the style and having a more critical eye of it, whereas the first time I just tried to watch it for enjoyment. Yes, I watched it twice this week. The idea, just watching it as a movie, it was hard. It was a hard movie to handle. But watching it as a critic, watching it, trying to be critical of it, there was a lot that was incredibly skillful about this movie, especially the performances. I would say every actor in this movie really did a phenomenal job. And the notion of having a small cast, not a lot of scenes with huge amounts of people, except for some church scenes and some school scenes. And most of the shots were really tight on 1 or 2 actors, and just not a lot of background, not a lot of paying attention to what's going on in the background, even though there were two things in the background that I think were almost characters in a sense. But I can really, after a second watch through, I can really understand why the critics enjoyed it more than the typical moviegoers. A lot of real beauty in it, even though it wasn't, a lot of people tend to like movies that are good, feeling good movies, happy clappy movies, a lot of, either a lot of laughter or a lot of action or something like that. And this didn't have that. It was more cerebral, and again, not yes and no as to the happy ending, like a happy-ish ending. So just to give kind of an overview of the movie. Oh, and an FYI, Greta Gerwig grew up in Sacramento, went to Catholic high school, and went to college in New York City. But this is not an autobiography. This is not based on her mother. This is not based on her growing up. But those three aspects of Lady Bird's life were certainly informed by Greta Gerwig's experiences in Sacramento and New York and all that. The movie is only an hour and a half. It's just over an hour and a half, and it speeds through an entire senior year of high school for Lady Bird. And it really kind of marks itself by the holidays that just kind of slam by. You get your Thanksgiving scene, you get your fall play, you get New Year's, you get Ash Wednesday, St. Patrick's Day, and graduation, prom. So like they all just speed by, but those moments of showing us what's happening in the world definitely help us understand where they are in the year. In a reference to how the movie is made, the movie reviewer from the New Yorker, Richard Brody, says that the air of restraint is conspicuous throughout the film, and the price of that clarity is freedom. And I think that's a much more concise way to put what I was saying earlier about why it's so critically good, whereas it is so audience mixed. The way the film is produced really, gets that feeling. It also almost gives you the feeling of kind of like how we remember our senior year of high school, how we might remember our senior year of high school, not as an entire year, but in these moments, in these flashes. Like the entire graduation scene is Christine Lady Bird, whatever her last name is, McPherson, and then they applaud, and then that's it. That's all of graduation. They don't even show any of the like hats going in the air or any of the stereotypical symbols. You hear her name, applause, and that's it. A lot to set up for a 5-second scene, as far as like what I know, the little I know of the movie business. They had to set up a lot to get that shot. So this was probably also a very labor intensive movie. So senior year, it's the formative year for a young person, a year when all kinds of curveballs get thrown at Lady Bird, mostly from her relationships with other people, some of which are self-imposed, some of which are external forces. A lot of what happens as I said, between the scenes, or it happens in gestures. It's not necessarily the dialogue, but it's in a look from character to character. A lot of it also happens in montages. When something big is happening, here's a bit, and then a bit, and then a bit, and then a bit, and then we're going to move on. It's also taking place in 2002, 2003. This is the height of the war in Iraq. This provides some of the background, some of this extra tension but I think it also emphasizes the tension between Lady Bird and her mom, the war that they're having between the two of them. And so that's one of these background characters. The war in Iraq is almost a character in the background, that does affect how people are dealing with each other. The high school self-righteous against the war, anti-violence, anti-money stuff that we hear from some of the characters, and just the idea that 2002 was a tense year for a lot of us. It was, I mean, for me, it was my first year back in America after living in Israel for a year, and it was a year of PTSD for me. The 9/11 happened while we were out of country, and we come back to jumping at every loud noise because of the bombings that were all over the place in Israel, some of which were happening when we got there, some of which were amplified by the war in Iraq. So all kinds of things going on in 2002, 2003 that did help to amplify the tension of the movie. The movie ends in New York. When she comes out of the subway, I was so excited when she came out of the subway. That was the subway that was exactly the subway exit that Natalie and I would come out of when we went to school every day. So which I recognized immediately from the basketball court with the McDonald's in the background. And it makes perfect sense because Lady Bird is going to NYU and Hebrew Union College is on NYU's campus. So it makes sense that we would use the same subway exit, but that was very exciting for me. At the end of the movie, she's at NYU telling a boy her name is Christine after fighting the whole movie to be called Lady Bird. And even at graduation, they call her as Christine Lady Bird. So even her school has acquiesced to her. Is that your given name? Yes, it was given to me by myself. So even the school has acquiesced to that, but then she goes back and says that her name is Christine, but then she tells the boy she's from San Francisco. So she's accepted her given name from her parents, but still not at peace with the entire city of Sacramento, because he doesn't, maybe he doesn't not familiar with Sacramento, like maybe he failed his state capitals quiz in grade school. And so she just says San Francisco so that he goes, oh yeah, I know about San Francisco. And then she has this devil's playground moment where she gets too drunk at a party, gets brought to the hospital. They don't seem to do anything to her when she wakes up in the, she gets her eyes checked out and the nurse is like, she's just drunk. So she wakes up in the hospital with nothing attached to her, no tubes or anything. So they were just letting her sleep it off. And she's got the little hospital bracelet and she looks up and there's that boy with the eye patch, and that it seems disjointed to just show this little boy staring at her, but really it's a way to say, you don't have it that bad, kid. It could have been a lot worse. Here's a little boy who's seriously injured enough to have some sort of an eye patch, and you're just a little hungover. So she, has the what is it? Oh gosh, the moment where with the I can't remember the name of the Christmas book with the three ghosts, because I'm too Jewish to remember the name of the book. So she has that. What's that?
Christmas Carol.
Yes, she has the Christmas Carol moment where she goes, "What day is it?" And he says, "It's Sunday." And so she goes to church, and she comes out of church, and again, like, she looked in all of the church scenes in the beginning, she looked like she was totally not into it. She didn't really want to be there, little bored. Sometimes she responded to the prayers, sometimes she did not. And yet she is motivated to go to church, and church motivates her in turn to call her mother and say, you know, I love you and thank you for as difficult as it was. So that's the movie as a whole, but it really develops through relationships. The movie is about how Lady Bird reacts to the people in her life. Of course, first and foremost is mom, Marion McPherson. And in the opening scene, the very first thing that you see of the two of them is they're sharing a hotel bed. They're facing each other, but they're not quite touching each other. Like their arms are maybe accidentally against one another, but they're not snuggling at all. And but it's still a sweet little picture. Like they're waking up in the same bed in a college visit hotel room. They listen to Grapes of Wrath. Oh, that was 8.5 hours of our drive, or whatever she says. And then it takes a quick turn when Lady Bird says something wistful and mom overreacts. And that turns into a fight and she jumps out of the car. And what a fantastic way to start the movie with a kid jumping out of a car. I do remember I couldn't find the I listened to a podcast about Lady Bird and I couldn't find it. So I looked back at all the wrong podcasts to find it. But in either in talking with Saoirse or in talking with Greta Gerwig or talking with one of the people involved in the movie, that's apparently all they ever ask about. Like, okay, tell us about jumping out of the car. How did you jump out of the car? Apparently the car was moving when the actress jumped, and it was actually the actress who did the stunt, but it was moving at 5 miles an hour. And like they slowed it down to 5 miles an hour and then sped up the background somehow with visual effects. But pretty cool moment. And then that, because of her own actions, she starts off her senior year of high school with a broken arm and the little note to her mother. And that note to her mother on the cast is exactly the opposite note to her mother that she leaves as a voicemail at the end of the movie. And there are so many different like throwaway moments that have such depth between Lady Bird and mom. The whole like reading in bed is something that rich people do. Like you go to a school with rich people, you need to know who you are, and you're not good enough for this, that, and the other. You shouldn't have had that second helping of pasta when she's trying on dresses. And can't you just say I look nice? Or you want me to lie? Like what horrible things to say. And then you get that moment where she, Lady Bird challenges her at one point, and Marion says, "My mother was an abusive alcoholic," and like that throwaway line gives you kind of a depth of understanding of the character. Like there's a lot more going on here than just this teenager's perspective of a mother who's all the way over here in one scene and all the way over here in another scene. She knows her mom loves her. She describes her mom as scary and warm. And you can be both. Maybe not at the same time, but you can definitely be both. Lady Bird a couple times in the movie kind of tries to open up to her mother, and sometimes it's met well and sometimes not. The one time where I think it's met best is when she doesn't say, she's picked up from Kyle's house. She's just lost her virginity and found out that he has not just lost her virginity. And she doesn't say anything to her mother. She just cries and leans in. And her mother just takes her in. She finally doesn't say anything. And and then just said, finally, when she does speak, she says, why don't we do our favorite Sunday activity? And they go to open houses in what I assume are the 40s. They and just imagining what it would be like to live in these houses, and what a nice free activity for a couple of strong women who imagine better for themselves, who imagine and struggle for better for themselves. And again, toward the end of the movie, when mom finds out about New York and gives her the silent treatment, and Lady Bird is begging her mom to talk to her while she's doing laundry and dishes, and that silent treatment is worse than the browbeating, which is fascinating how Greta Gerwig creates that I would say that about it. But that's the mother and the mother-daughter relationship of the movie. And then we have the mother-father relationship, where he's really loving to everyone. He tries unsuccessfly to rein Marion in. He supports Lady Bird and Miguel with equal love and fervor. I love the scene where he knocks on the door and she says, "Come in, Dad," and he says, "How'd you know it was me?" And she goes, "Mom doesn't knock," and he goes, "Oh yeah," like just one of those just dad moments. Same with the pictured moment where he brings in the birthday cupcake, and they have they have a lot of really sweet moments, especially toward the end, where he's helping her prepare for college, and he packs the suitcase with her mom's letters. Like, he's been willing to keep this secret from her about New York and financial aid and all the things that they knew she was going to freak out about. Like why, if I don't get in, then I'll be upset, and that's fine, and mom will never have to know. But if I do get in, then it's good news, and we'll let her freak out with good news. But instead, oops. And so while she's remaining angry and he's helping out, but he still packs those letters that she didn't want to give to Lady Bird for whatever reason, blaming handwriting and grammar, but probably not the real reason. And that line that he has to her, "I want you to know how much she loves you, but don't tell her I salvaged them." This, like, we still need to keep secrets from her because she'll freak out if she knows that I did this, but you still need to know how much your mother loves you. Which is also kind of pinpointed when she does that loop around the airport, and she realizes she's screwed up. And we have a moment, I'm sorry, Mom, we have a moment in our household from me growing up as a teenager where if I bring it up, my mom can get upset just by me bringing it up. And I think that Marion has that same moment where she really, she screws up. This is a lot worse than my mom screw up, but she really screws up, and she realizes it kind of halfway through, and like, I don't remember watching the 2018 Oscars, but I am sure that if they showed a clip of this movie in a way to highlight Laurie Metcalf, that it would have been this moment, like the scene in the car where she's like trying not to cry and crying and smiling that she's back at the beginning of the airport and hopeful that she might see her daughter, and just dejected when she realizes she can't. It's an entire year's worth of acting in one face, and it's really fantastic. So, but then she runs into Larry, and he just holds her and says she'll be back. Like, this wasn't goodbye. This was see you at Thanksgiving, winter break, next year, whatever it is. A quick moment on Miguel and Shelley, the brother and sister-in-law. They're not really married, but they're living together, so it's kind of an interesting relationship. So this adopted brother works at the grocery store, offers unsolicited advice about veganism and consumerism, and there's this, he's got moments like, whatever you do, it's not going to end up well. Like whatever you're up to, it's not going to end well. And he's right, because what she's up to is hiding her New York acceptance from her mother, and then in the next scene or scene right after, her mother finds out about it accidentally. But with Miguel, and then Shelley has a couple of nice moments where when Lady Bird is calm, Shelley is calm, and when Lady Bird is freaking out, Shelley is critical. So she's this kind of like sister she never wanted, but she does offer this, friend advice from time to time. But what really the moment that I love, the pair of moments with Miguel, was when, out of the blue and for no reason, she screams at him, "You're never going to get a job with all that stuff in your face," which is a very Marion thing to say. And Dad even points out at one point that, hey, you and Mom both have strong personalities. So he's already set this up how alike they are, and she proves it there. And yet, when we see Miguel interviewing for the job, it's all gone. So as much as that moment is like, he's listened, he took it in, and he listened, and he got the job. So that relationship also is, I would say, a lesser relationship as far as how it affects her storyline, but it still does show a lot about her character. Julie, the best friend, very sweet kid, and if you like the actress who I forget her name right now, but she is very much a Jewish actress at a Catholic school. It's great. And if you have not seen the movie Booksmart, you will see this actress in pretty much the same role, and maybe a little bit of a stronger character, but another like coming of age movie with the actress playing Julie as the main character. So Julie allows Lady Bird to kind of have all the focus in their friendship, which she does end up regretting later. Like, you can't, if you can't have all the attention, you don't want to be a part of it. And she goes a little back and forth. Sometimes she's trying to emulate Lady Bird. Sometimes she's, caring for her, trying to rein her in when she starts to drift toward Jenna and the cool kids, the rich kids. She gets angry when she feels ignored by Lady Bird, rightfully so. But during that prom scene, it's so sweet. Like, it's really the only moment where I got teary in the movie, was when she sat down on the couch and not in so many words, asked her to prom. That great moment they had the prom picture together, like, totally wonderful moment. Like, we don't need any other people because this is a real friendship. And a lot of subtle things about Julie show that there's a lot more to her story as well. She has a father who they didn't know about, who resurfaces in Yellowstone, whatever that means, and she's going to go spend the summer with him. So Julie has been going through a lot this year. But again, Lady Bird is worried about Lady Bird and taking care of Lady Bird. So she's not aware of all of this happening, and there could be a whole second movie about Julie, but besides Booksmart. And then to all the boys she's loved before. First, Danny, her first crush, apparently a very sweet dance together at homecoming. He's a nice boy, polite. you know, good to his grandmother, his parents, and to her parents. He you know, and it's always the sweetest boys, so to, you know, stereotypically. So when she sees him kissing another boy, totally destroys her. The you know they you know they have a moment where before she catches him, they have a moment where where he says he's not going to touch her boobs because he respects her. You know, and then we learn, no, it's because he's not interested in boobs. So you know, the very you know, again, her focused, it's such a rejection that he's not interested in her, but he's not interested in her because he's not interested in her type at all, which should be understandable. And eventually it is when he's, you know, forces her to talk to him behind the coffee shop and says, you know, please don't tell anyone. And they have that, again, that moment where they hug, and it's again, very sweet and a little sad for both of them that he's in a Catholic school with Irish Catholic family, and, you know, dealing with whatever he's dealing with. But again, we see it from her perspective. We don't see it from the difficulties of not wanting to come out to your Catholic family in your senior year of high school. We see it from the rejection of, you know, oh, he rejected me. Then the next boy is Kyle. He's the stereotypical cool, mysterious, and totally ignorant kid. You know, he's in the coffee shop smoking cigarettes, in a band. He's aloof. He's also dealing with his dad having cancer. You know, so Lady Bird makes quite a few jokes in the movie that just don't land for various reasons. And she makes a joke about death to this kid whose dad is dying of cancer. So not a good thing to do. And we do see, as she's feeling, you know, as she's leaving his house after they have sex, there's a little shot of his dad asleep with the oxygen tank next to him. He's, you know, they're struggling, and she's, again, worried about herself. He's really an awful person. And I do look forward to seeing him play the main character in Dune when it comes out this year, because I'm very excited about that movie. But the character is just not someone I would ever want to be around, and yet he's someone I've been around. So, well, I'm gonna skip the rest of my notes on him. Okay, the other two-dimensional character, but two-dimensional again in this like very necessary way, very well-written way, is Jenna. She's, you know, she is the girl that everybody hates and wants to be friends with. Like she's the Heather. She's wealthy. And in order for Jenna to see her as an equal, Lady Bird says she lives in the 40s, and she's trying to impress Jenna with this. And Jenna's response is, "Oh, that's where our starter house was." So like this backhanded compliment, you know, almost like bless your hearty. She's really like doesn't care about anyone who's not paying attention to her, doesn't know, like there's a scene early in the movie, you know, midway, where she's making a comment about something, and then Lady Bird comments, and then she turns around and goes, "What's your name?" Like, to not know someone's name who's in your class, and, you know, private school, it can't be that big, they're in a classroom together, and to not know her name, like so rude. And then even later she does it again regarding Julie. She mentions Julie, And I think twice, maybe even, Jenna asks who Julie is. So even less of a thought towards the best friend. And it's finally when Jenna and Kyle and then the other guy who I don't even know the other character's name are on their way to prom, and the cool kids decide that they're going to skip prom, and that's the moment where, in listening to Jenna reject prom and Kyle reject Dave Matthews Band, she realizes that she's not friends with these people and she needs Julie. So, going backwards. And quickly, one shout out to Sister Sarah. Sister Sarah is the helpful and wise. She's the Dumbledore character who really has a good overview of Lady Bird's true character. She claims she hates Sacramento, and Sister Sarah's the first one to point out, well, you write like you love it. She's yes, she says the images of the bird on a lady's body and vice versa are disturbing, but she doesn't call her out for idolatry or anything like that, or using Egyptian symbolism. It could have gone a lot of different ways. She just says, I find them disturbing, and they move on to topics. She said the harshest critique that Sister Sarah gives her is, you're not very strong in math, but she does say it in a way that's not hard to hear. Maybe it's tone, but it's something that Lady Bird also acknowledges. She's like, oh, my dad's so good at math, why can't I get this? It's a frustration, but not wrong. And she even says, like, yeah, I've known for a while it was you who decorated my car, but we thought it was funny. We didn't know why people were honking at us. And she says, and I wasn't just married to Jesus, we've been married for 40 years. And they make a joke like, oh, he's a lucky guy is the joke, and that's really one of the first jokes that Lady Bird makes that lands. That like quick complimentary kind of humor works much better for her than her attempts to insult. The worst offender being at the abortion assembly, where she basically tells the woman she wishes she hadn't been born. She wishes she had been aborted, with the, if your mother had had that abortion, we wouldn't have to sit through this stupid assembly. Like, what a horrible thing to say. So horrible that even Jenna is like, I don't know you. So all of these relationships, and again, through the perspective, the lens of Lady Bird herself, she has to come to the realization that all of these things that she's been rejecting, that's who she really is. And those are the things that she really cares about. The rejection of Julie, who she realizes is her true friend. The rejection of her mother, who she realizes is herself. The rejection of Sacramento, which she realizes is her home. All of these things, and she does need to go to New York to allow that to happen, or at least to allow to fully realize. But it's through the people in her life that she gains the perspectives of herself. So happy Mother's Day for that one. And any thoughts? I'm going to take down the slideshow for your thoughts.
I really enjoyed seeing Laurie Metcalf, because we've seen her for so many years as the goofy Jackie on Roseanne and the Connors, and just to see how great an actress she is.
Yeah, that alone might have been why she got so many accolades from the award circuit, is just knowing her as that goofball and seeing her so different. Yeah, I totally agree.
Hello?
Hello.
I lost it when just accidentally it felt like they told us, we were told through the movie that the mother was a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a counselor. That just really turned me off to the mother. How can a mother who's supposed to be educated to understand people doesn't?
Except for the fact that we know a couple of psychologists who are just as bad as she was.
But not, that's no excuse to me.
I'm looking around to see if there are any psychologists on the Zoom, but psychologists do tend to have the crazy children, and rabbis tend to have.
Rabbis are next.
Rabbis are very close second.
But I like my grandchildren.
Common enemy, Ma. So the idea that in our professional world we don't always take care of our personal world in the same way, that disconnect, that need to just kind of let it go. When I come home, I don't want to hear any Jewish music. I don't enjoy sitting and listening to Jewish music. Natalie does. But to me, I want that break because that's what I listen to when I'm working. And to me, hearing Jewish music is work, but hearing Fish and Ben Folds and classic rock and stuff, that's to relax. So I think that idea can be transferred without any self-analysis, can be transferred to the notion of psychiatrists and clergy having crazy kids, and not being able to take care of the home in the same way. The kindness with which she handles the priest who leaves the drama program for whatever reason. Perhaps the reason that makes him cry so easily, perhaps something totally that we don't know about at all. Please don't tell your daughter. We have no idea what he's coming to her about, whether it's psychological or physical, we don't know. And the kindness that she shows to him, the kindness that she shows to her coworker, giving him a gift and not mentioning the cost of the gift at all. It's the only gift she gives in the movie without mentioning its price. Even when she's trying on dresses, she looks at the tags. So if she doesn't mention it with her words, she mentions it with her mouth, with her actions. And yet she gives the gift to her coworker totally selflessly. She gives the advice to the priest totally genuinely. I think it's also typical of how humans are so different in our work than we are in our home. And I think that our family might be a little different. I feel like Natalie is exactly the same to work people as she is to me, maybe less critical, and I'm pretty much behave the same way, except maybe I don't swear as much in front of you all. But you, Mom, I learned it all from you. So but in general, I think we tend to be a little bit less different in work life and regular life, and I think that's also just the nature of being clergy. Someone once asked me, I officiated a wedding in Cincinnati, and one of the guests said, "Where are you a rabbi?" And I said, "Everywhere I go." So I think that kind of like semi non-separation of identity and job helps with that. But
when I was a kid, my sister's PE teacher pointed out something that stuck with me, is just that we tend to be kinder to strangers than we are to our family, and that it really should be, in a way, if anything, the other way around.
Except that our family is also sooner to forgive us than a stranger. And because we know that intrinsically, we can relax a little. Lenny, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I found this movie very challenging as a pick for Mother's Day. And one of the things that I learned from your mom is I think one of the most important things that a parent can give to their child is the ability to stretch their own wings and pursue their own dreams. You want to be there to have a safety net so your child doesn't fall off the Empire State Building, but you want to give them the opportunity to fly. And I thought back to the first scene of the movie. In many ways, the mother was abusive. She didn't hit her, but she was abusive. when the girl says, gee, I'd like to go to a school in New York, the mother could have very easily said, now there's no movie without this, but the mother could have very easily said, why don't you apply? And yes, it's very expensive. And if you get in, then we'll deal with it.
Right.
Okay. That would have been, now that it would, as I said, there's no movie without that. But in some ways, a parent shooting down their child's dreams before they have a chance to express themselves, it's a form of child abuse, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally agree, and it would have. I think it also would have been equally abusive, and maybe you know, I did not get nominated for a Screenwriting Academy Award, and Greta Gerwig did, but I'm going to say it anyway. To maybe have the mother say, you know, well, you're never going to get in, so go ahead and apply. You know, like at least in that, like it still would have had that abusiveness, but she would have known. But again, I agree, like a lot of the conflict doesn't happen if there's no secret. Yeah, anyone else before we do some text? All right, I'm gonna move back to, where's my, there it is. So mothers in our text. This is one of, like, whenever I think about mothers in Jewish textual practice in scholarship, I think of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, and Zilpah, like the mothers who made us Israel. And the story that I always go to is this one from Baba Metzia. And when I've heard it told, or when I've told it, I feel like it's a little bit easier to swallow than just reading it straight up, but we'll give it a try anyway. So, and she, the she being Sarah, says, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah should nurse children? How many sons did Sarah nurse? And what they're doing here, it starts with the rabbis questioning the plural of children in Genesis when she only had one child. So they're saying, like, why are they saying she nurses children? And so they answer with a story. Rabbi Levi says, that day when Abraham weaned his son Yitzchak, he made a great feast. All of the nations of the world were gossiping and saying, see this old man and old woman who brought a child from the market and are saying he's our son. And not only that, they're making a great feast to support their statement. So the gossip is, Isaac isn't really your son. You've adopted him and you're calling him your son. So how dare you? And so Abraham invites all the great men of the generation, and Sarah invited their wives. Each and every one of the wives brought her child with her, but did not bring her nurse. And a miracle happened to Sarah, our mother, and her breasts were open like two springs, and she nursed all of these children. So the idea of, now the idea, like, let's forget the fact that the rabbis are obsessed with boobs. This happens all the time when they start talking about breastfeeding. But the idea that Sarah's and the ability to feed a child is the rabbi's link to what a great mother you are. Like that idea that the connection to the child, the feeding of the child, the providing for the child until the child is weaned, like that's the credit of a mother. So her credit as a mother is she gets the fountain of breast milk all over all the children in the land, and she's able to feed them all. I've always liked this story because I think it's a little weird for us in 2021 to hear this story, but 2,000 years ago when they wrote this story, this was a testament to Sarah's greatness, how she is the greatest of our ancestral mothers, so great that she could not only provide for Isaac and prove to the town that she is the real mother of Isaac, because you can only breastfeed if you've given birth, but she, she's able to be the mother of everyone, because breastfeeding everyone means you're everyone's mother. or you have a connection. So that story has always, I don't know. I've always found it fun. The next verse I wanted to share was just almost almost just a throwaway, but this is the verse that kept rattling around in my brain when I was watching the movie and thinking about what text to share. It was, "What a lioness was your mother among the lions, crouching among the great beasts, she reared her cubs." And that, yes, yes, Marion was verbally abusive to Lady Bird, and perhaps because that's all she knew how to do. That's the only way she knew how to be a mother, because her mother was an abusive alcoholic. And yes, there is a kind of apology, even though Lady Bird doesn't receive it directly toward the end of the movie. But there's this scary and warm, scary and caring. Like she is mean because she loves me. Like this duality. And to me, that's the lioness, a fierce creature who does the hunting for the pack, but who is the mother to the cubs. So that this verse from Ezekiel is what really gives me the Marion McPherson vibes. Wow, all of my things are dropping. And just kind of speeding through. So this is the classic from the 10 oral commandments at Mount Sinai. This is the second time that we get the reading of the 10 commandments, and the reason I chose this one, as far as honor your father and your mother, is to parallel it to this commandment. If along the road you chance upon a bird's nest in any tree or on the ground with fledglings or eggs, and the mother sitting over the fledglings or on the eggs, do not take the mother together with her young. Let the mother go and take only the young, in order that you may fare well and have a long life. And these two commandments juxtaposed, Rashi points out that these two commandments have the same stated reward, that you may long endure and that you may long fare well, and as well as you may fare well and have a long life. And in Hebrew, it's the same words but backwards. So that you may long endure and have a long life are the same words. Orech yamim is the phrase, and faring well is yetiv lach. So both times it's the same Hebrew phrases, although backwards. And Rashi says the reason that you have these two commandments with the same reward is because honoring your father and mother is the most difficult commandment, because everything that we do is a reflection of our parents. And scaring away a bird is, in Rashi's point of view, the easiest commandment, because you walk up to a bird and they're going to fly away. That's his rationale. So he says the reason they have the same reward is because the hardest and the easiest commandment have the same reward, which implies that every commandment in between has the same reward. And that is that we'll fare well and have a long life. I would suggest, with all respect to Rashi, that these commandments might have the same reward because they are doing the same thing. They're both showing respect for the mother. They're both showing that we need to, that in the second commandment, shooing the mother away before taking the fledglings or the eggs is a way of honoring the motherhood, not letting the mother have the pain of seeing her children taken from her. Even if, we're the highest on the food chain in this sense, and can easily take the mother and the bird if we wanted to, we're showing respect and allowing the mother to keep soldiering on, so to speak. And again, this is a thousands of years ago point of view, but the idea being these commandments are linked not by being the easiest and the hardest, I think, but by showing us that even among the beasts, we should respect motherhood. That even among animals, if we are showing that we care for an animal's feelings for her children, we should care all the more strongly for our own mother's feelings about us. I saw that face, Mom. So next we get to a specific character. The idea of Moses we think of Moses being raised by Pharaoh's daughter. But here we have, this is from Exodus chapter 1, verses 7 through 10. So really early in Exodus. Moses is in the water. He's pulled out by Pharaoh's daughter. Then his sister is referring to Miriam, says to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get you a Hebrew nurse to suckle the child for you?" Because they believed in these times that you should only be breastfed by your own kind. So an adopted child would have a nurse from that child's tribe or people or whatever. So Pharaoh's daughter answers yes. The girl went and called the child's mother, Yocheved, and Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child and nurse it for me, and I will pay your wages." So the woman, Moses' mother, took the child and nursed it. When the child grew up, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, who made him her son. She named him Moses. So Moses is credited with meaning she drew him out of the water. May or may not be what it means. That's another lesson for another time. But because Moses means in this story, I drew him out of the water, we think he gets the name when he's drawn out of the water. He doesn't. She remembers that moment from years ago. The child grows up with his mother. Moses grows up with his mother. And then Pharaoh's daughter adopts him. So the timeline is a little screwed up, but Moses wouldn't be Moses if he didn't have two things. One is a comfort in the Egyptian court. The ability to go up to Pharaoh and say, "Let my people go," doesn't come easily. It's because he grew up in the Pharaoh's court to a certain extent. From the time he was maybe 5 years old, but still not his entire life, but from the time he was weaned. So he's got access to the Pharaoh's court, but he also has access to his own people's history, the knowledge of his own people through his nursemaid, who happens to also be his mother. Without his mother, he wouldn't have had the love of the Israelites, the knowledge of his own people that made him want to rise up and save them. And finally, from Ruth, this I could spend an hour on just this text alone. Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, "Turn back each of you to her mother's house. May Adonai deal kindly with you as you've dealt with the dead and with me." The dead are her two sons, her two sons and her husband have just died in a war. And so these three women are alone. She says, go to your mother's house. May Adonai grant that each of you find security in the house of a husband. And she kissed them farewell. They broke into weeping and said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi replied, "Turn back, my daughters." In just this one phrase, they have gone from "go to your mother's house" to "you are my daughters. Why should you go with me? Have I any more sons in my body who might be husbands for you?" So this, in this turn of phrase, Naomi, just hearing the daughters-in-law refuse. Now, one of the daughters-in-law doesn't refuse too strongly, and the other one does refuse strongly and ends up going along with Naomi. But just in two sentences, Naomi turns them from "go to your mothers" to "I am your mother." And to me, this is kind of Sister Sarah in Lady Bird. And that some are mothers that we're born from, and some are mothers that we choose or who choose us, or both. And you've got both Sister Sarah for Lady Bird and Marion, in a sense, being the mother that they choose, but also knowing that they have an adopted son as well with Miguel. This that there is a child that she chooses. There's enough love in her heart for an extra, for more. And so she's this powerful force in in Lady Bird's life, just as Naomi was a powerful force in Ruth's life. And as my mother says, and as I've said before, there's the family that you're born to and the family you choose. They're, love by blood and love by choice. The Lady Bird even chooses back her family at the end, when she's, in that scene where she said, where they're saying, isn't it weird that we go by these names that our families give us when we don't get to name ourselves? She has rejected her family's name for her throughout the whole movie until the very end. What's your name? Christine. She finally does say, yeah, I am my mother's daughter. And she finally does say, yes, I love my mother. And she says to her mother the same thing I say to you, thank you. So thank you for being here. And any other questions before we reveal? There's a change.
I just have one recommendation, and that is, before you ask us to watch a movie, you watch it yourself.
So noted. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't, and so you don't have to come. So the next week we get a little schedule change. We're gonna start with, we're gonna see The Invention of Lying, which I have seen, and you may or may not like. And it's going to be at 9 p.m. Pacific as part of a Tikkun Leil Shavuot that we're doing with with 35 other congregations across the country. We have it's a special program. You do need to register for the program. It's there's a link on our Facebook page. There's a link on the website. If you know how to do a bit.ly, it's bit.ly/Shavuot 5781. The S in Shavuot is capitalized, and that matters. If you go to that website, bit.ly/Shavuot 5781, that will send you to a page to register. And then the registration will in turn send you an email that will give you a whole list of what's happening every hour on the hour from 7 p.m. Eastern to 8 a.m. Pacific. A whole night of study. Some hours you have the choice among 4 different classes. Some hours there's one choice. And then for that 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. set, there's here are some suggestions of recorded videos to watch. But whatever it is that you choose to attend, more than welcome. It's all no cost to you. There's no registration fee. It's just something that we 36 congregations are doing together for Shavuot. First time I've ever heard of 36 congregations getting together for anything, and it can only be done in the times that we find ourselves in. So this is the bonus of the horrible times. So Invention of Lying next week, 9 p.m. If you decide not to register for the whole program, it's this same link. So if those of you who come to this class regularly, it's the same link that we normally do.
Can you tell us why we stay up all night for this holiday?
Because it's a celebration of Torah. So we do Torah study all night to celebrate, because we're celebrating the receiving of Torah. We are allowing ourselves to receive Torah in all of its different forms. And because this is over the internet, you can choose to stay up all night, or you could choose to go to bed when you need to, or take naps as you go through. But yeah, I don't remember the exact history of the custom, but the reasoning behind it is that that as a celebration of Torah, we receive Torah all night long. And the list of classes, if you do register, the list of classes is very expansive. They're way all over the spectrum. It's really great.
But there won't be a service or anything.
There will be a service. We are doing CBT and a congregation in, I want to say North Carolina, but I could be wrong, somewhere on the East Coast. We're going to do a service together at 7 p.m. Pacific, so 7 p.m. our time. And so it's 2 congregations and 3 clergy. So Jenna and I will be leading with Rabbi Emily Losbin Ostroff, who is a classmate of Natalie's and mine. So the 2 congregations will be leading that service. So yes, there will be a little service. It will be an hour or shorter to make space for the other classes that are happening throughout the night. But yes, we will offer that to you. And again, that's on this same link as well. So if you do want to attend, if you decide that you want to be CBT selfish and only go to the 2 things that are being led by CBT clergy, that's 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. and they're both on this link. So there's my gift to you this Mother's Day. Yeah, Mom, I know you already got one. Okay. So have a great week. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers and mothers-in-law and stepmothers, etc. out there. And we'll see you soon.